I know I'm kind of, it's because we're kind of running over here, and this, I don't know how other to describe this,
This
other
is
than
just
to
the
tell.
distance between blocks. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, basically, you've got a fixed distance between the blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know that the player is at row 1, column 1, and you're trying to calculate the position of a row 2 block, then you know that you just take the position of the player, which is always in the center of the screen, and you add a certain amount to get the row or the column offset.
And
And
that
what is that certain amount? It's nothing more than the difference between the player's row and column and the row and column that you're currently at.
and that makes sense because you're dynamically laying out the level based on the information that's in the level file. Then you're centering on the player themselves, and so you want the player to be able to jump from block to block without being caught in a lurch. So you space the gaps out in a way that you know that they'll be able to make it from block to block.
That's exactly it. Remember how I said I could have made this like a visual editor? Well, I
Mm-hmm.
realized when I was getting ready to make that decision that because the gaps between the blocks have to be the same all the time, it's a fixed grid. And so knowing that this is a fixed grid, it creates this situation where I can easily calculate where every block is relative to every other block. It's always going to be a fixed distance. So if I create a way to convert a table 1 through 64 into some other kind of table containing relative information about the rows and columns, I can then calculate the positions knowing the relative rows and columns and the size of the gaps between rows and columns.
So I have a question for you, and
Okay?
this is a little bit like interrogating Jack Nicholas and Jack Nicholas or Nicholson. Which one's the golf player? Which one's the actor? In A Few Good Men, and he's like, they're up there interrogating him, and he's like, "Don't question the manner in which I give you protection." Blah, blah. Anyway,
Okay? So shoot me.
so my question is, if it's a fixed grid, 60, 8 by 8, 64, whatever. I mean, could you have just, um,
Laid them out in the same position all the time?
yeah, just and then just turned them on and off based
Yes,
based
I
on.
could. If I had done that, however, I would still need to know where the player is. Why?
Yeah.
Because the camera code, the code that moves everything around,
Mm-hmm.
has to know where the player is because it's following the player.
Right.
So then I could have done that. It would have been a little bit simpler. Everything else would have been exactly the same, except this little bit wouldn't have been necessary. I'd have been able to encode that directly right here when I did this step. But then I would still have needed to know where the player was, and I would have had to encode that in the camera code.
Mm.
And because I'm lazy, I like simple camera code. My camera code is like 15 lines of code. It's really super simple. Maybe 20 lines.
Gotcha.
So it's
But
if I hadn't done that, it would have been I would have had to write code and then explain to people I'm doing an offset and I need to wait 1 frame and then I got to do this thing and no, forget about that. I'm not going to do that.
well, and I think this goes back to the way that you usually put things together. You put things together in a modular fashion so that they're reusable.
Right, exactly. See, my camera code in this is actually reused from uh, what was that game with the hallways?
Uh, uh,
Zigzag Boom Con.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly the same camera code as that. So I didn't want to rewrite that bit. In fact, I didn't even want to talk about it. I just wanted people to use it.
So the question that I just asked would require hard coding a grid, which would only be good for one game, not for a library of games. Or
Exactly. See, this is much more universal.
yeah.
It's just that I got to think a little bit harder on this one bit. But once I get past that, I never have to think about this again. The finalizing was probably like the hardest part of this whole calculation. I'm like, okay, I know how that works in practice, but I still got to go do the calculation. So if you had seen me developing this, you'd see me going, nope, no, dummy, you forgot. You got to add half a distance. Oh, no, wait. No, it's not half a distance. It's subtract. Oh, wait, how does that go again?
I think you should live stream those sessions.
I should. Some people do that. In fact, it's funny you say that, but I saw a game. I was looking at itch.io from our talk on After Dark,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys have got to stop pointing me at these things, but I was looking at one of the games, and this guy is live streaming the entire development of his game. And he's been doing it for months. and he has a huge following. It's like, wow. What's that streaming service for games nowadays?
Twitch.
Twitch. It could be Twitch. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, he's live streaming his game development. I'm like, really? That's going to be kind of boring. Because I know that I get up and walk away, and people are like, where'd he go?
I heard that there are people that they like to watch live streams of people eating because they don't want they don't want to eat by themselves.
Yeah. There's some kid who's like got like 75,000. He makes like $1,500 a day. People watching him watch TV and eat food.
Yeah. Well, people are lonely. They just don't want to be lonely.
I need that job, right? I can do that. That's a job I am highly qualified for. Watching TV and eating food.
There you go.
At $1,500 a day, I'm on it. Okay, so we're really kind of done with this discussion. I mean, there is more to it, but
here's
the summary
is a cliffhanger. You just have to come back for the next week.
Yeah, I didn't get to show people the builders, and we have to do that next week. But the summary, the learning from this week is we took a flat list that was basically formatted in a way that was nice and easy to read, and then we created a number of these lists or tables, and we were able to take that, do some magic conversion, processing, and then we passed that process data into a function which we have not talked about yet, the builders. And then we get this nice layout, and it makes it very, very easy for us to say, I'd really like to have the spikes on the bottom. So that is a 3, save the file, reload. I think I have the thing selected. Oh man, just shooting myself. Sorry. And I didn't do that. Rewind.
That's how it happens when you do things on the fly.
No, this never works. What's going on here? Do I have this thing selected? Just for people watching, if you select the console, here's a good one. You're editing and you do something silly like this and you try to reload, Windows says, can't do it. It basically, selecting the console locks the simulator. So if you get into this thing where you're trying to reload your level and nothing happens, then
it might be a little bit of that.
Oh, you know what? S is not spike. X is spike. See, I can't even remember my own symbols. So I want that to be on the right side. Save it. It's on the right side. The point here is really easy, super easy to read. Once you got this laid out, you never have to think about the code again. You can just go in and super rapidly edit these levels, lay them out, and then play to your heart's content.